All right, welcome back to another episode of Just Buy Less Coffee, answering the deeper questions of American politics. My name is Troy, aka Keep Troy Blue. With me, as always, is Kathy Kornacki, Kathy Cannon,
I like that, Cathy.
aka
Oh,
Cannon's
if he wasn't gay,
fodder.
though, I swear I would marry him.
Oh, I just dropped the thing. Yeah, so listen up. We are this is it. This is the last episode prior to the election, the last recorded episode anyway. We are here, Kathy. We've been doing this podcast for 3 years. We started this podcast. This is episode 150. We started this podcast in roughly August of 2021, right after all this shit kind of went down and Trump had kind of, sunk away into his swamp, and no
Where
one
we
really
thought
wanted to,
he would stay, but
and we
alas.
thought he would stay in the swamp and nobody really wanted to hear from him again. And then he slowly kind of crawled his way back out. And 3 years later, here we are. It is election day
And this is our
coming
first
up.
presidential election, even though we've been doing this for so
Yeah,
long, because it was after the last one. So
that's true. We've done a
big
couple of
news.
elections. This is our first presidential election, and it is a big one, people. Donald
Mhm.
Trump, Kamala Harris, election day, Tuesday, November 5th. Hopefully, you have already voted. But if not, and you're going to vote on Tuesday, it is Tuesday, November 5th. Look up your local polling place. Make sure you know how long they're open. They usually close between 7 and 8 o'clock. Usually open at 7:30 to 8 o'clock in the morning. Make sure you get over there and vote. Make sure your boss gives you time off to vote. They are legally required to do that. It's crunch time. It's
Yep.
absolutely crunch time. This is it.
And a couple of things, right? Like so you know your rights when you're at the polls, right?
Yes.
Be prepared to wait in line, right? But
Yes.
don't let them get you out of line. If you are there before the polls close, you are allowed to vote. So if you
Yes.
get there at 6:45, the polls close at 7 and it's a 2-hour wait, stay. Like, I know it's going to
Don't get
suck
out of line.
wait in line, but don't get out of line. You are allowed to vote. They have to let you vote. If you get there and they say there's a problem with like your signature or something like that, whatever, request a provisional ballot. They have
Yep.
to let you vote on a provisional ballot. Check your polling location, like your precinct, before you go, though, because if you wait in line for 2 hours and find out you're at the wrong place, that's going to piss anybody off, right? So make sure you go to the right place. Double check. You can go. Most states have a website database. Make sure you put the place that you're going in your Google Maps. Even if you think you know where it is, nope, put it in your maps because it will take you to the right place. No campaign swag.
No
I know a
campaign
lot of
swag. Do not wear
yeah,
anything with a
I know a
candidate's
lot
name
of
on
Trump
it. He
supporters
has
are
to
learning
leave.
this the hard way. I saw one guy
Yeah.
like lose his fucking shit and like assault a poll worker because they said like you have to put your hat on like in the car. You can't come in here
Yeah.
with that. So no t-shirts, whatever. It's 150 feet from the polling place, no electioneering. So if anybody is intimidating you, talking to you, trying to hand you ballots, call for a poll worker. They're not allowed to do that. That's voter intimidation. Whatever. If it starts raining and you think this is bullshit, just remember your grandparents stormed the beaches of Normandy. The least you can do is stand in the fucking rain. All right, bitches. Anyway, I
And
love you.
some
I
of
don't
your
mean that. You
grandparents,
have
some of
it.
our grandparents died for the right to vote too.
Goddamn right, right?
Depending on the
So
state, so more and more states are doing this sort of vote vote anywhere. There's just election centers. You just have to, go to whichever one and drop off your ballot. Some states are still, I think most states are still old school, and you are assigned like a specific polling place. So, like Kathy said, make sure you know where your polling place is. It should be
yeah.
fairly close to where you are, where you live, hopefully.
Yeah,
So,
but be aware that like you might think, "Oh, I saw people voting at such and such place during early voting." The early voting place isn't necessarily your polling place. It could
right,
be if you live in
right.
that particular precinct, but just because you saw people who live near you go there to early vote doesn't mean that's where you're going to go to regular vote, okay? So check online, make sure you know what you're doing, have a plan. Get your Stanley or your Awala, make sure it's full, right? Keep it with you in line because
Go
they're
in the
like a
morning.
lot of
Don't go at don't wait till after work at 6. Go in the morning
right.
before work.
But like a lot of states, like especially Florida and other Republican MAGA wannabe states, have laws about like they can't give you food and drink and water and whatever like. So bring a little picnic a basket if you must, right? Like whatever you need to do, just be ready.
Yeah.
And more likely, the more prepared you are, the less preparation you will have needed. But better safe than sorry, right? So Um,
And just know that if you're in a red state, they will probably try to fuck with your right to vote. And just remember, like what Cathy said, like if you are 18 years old and a United States citizen, you have the right to vote. Point blank. Period. You have a constitutional right to vote. The Constitution doesn't say anything about registering to vote or provisional ballots or any of that shit. You have a right to vote. So if they challenge your right to vote, if they say you can't vote, ask for a provisional ballot.
mhm.
Do not let them turn you away without casting at least a provisional ballot. So
Correct. And
yeah.
if you see any fuckery, don't be afraid to report it. There should be numbers posted in the polling places about like
Yeah.
reporting any election nonsense or intimidation. I think it's what is it? 1-8. We should look it up and have it like we'll put it in the show notes here. We'll say it at the end of the episode because I'll look it up. But remember that they're not allowed. Like I have a scenario from right here in Florida. A person who has lived in U.S. for 40 plus years but still has an accent showed up to drop off their ballot and were asked straight up to their face, "Are you legal?" That is fucking bullshit, right? So
Right.
don't let that intimidate you. Call and report it. That is against the fucking law. They're not allowed to do that. So
Yeah.
expect it if you're in states that you would expect it, and be prepared for it.
Yep.
We're going to prove that we're better than this, but we have to live through it to do it. So,
On that note, on election night, we are going to be doing a live broadcast. We don't usually do live broadcasts. We're gonna we're gonna be
what
live
with the
streaming to
6 hour time
YouTube.
difference between us, you know, so it's a little
I'll
difficult.
get that in a second. It'll be nice and midnighty where I am. It'll be nice and dark outside. But it'll be 6 p.m. East Coast, 6 p.m. East Coast, 3 p.m. West Coast. So figure out your time zone. But yeah, 6 p.m. East Coast, we are going to be going live. We are live streaming to YouTube. If you follow our YouTube channel, you can watch the live stream on the YouTube. But fear not, we will also be going live on TikTok. I know a lot of our fans are on the TikToks. We will also be going live on TikTok. Hopefully, we will have some other creators join us. But we will be recording the podcast live on Tuesday evening as polls close, live on YouTube and TikTok. So join us there. Find either tune into the live stream on YouTube, or if you follow us on the TikToks, just go to our TikTok pages and you will see both of us
Yep.
there. So
And we
very
will
exciting.
have a special guest already confirmed with
Oh
us.
yeah,
Cathy's good friend Ryan the Polywonk will be with us.
Ryan the
So
Kornacki.
Ryan R. Kornacki, right? He has been obsessively stalking these polls, which I love him for because I haven't had time to obsessively stalk the polls like I normally do. So he's the one keeping me informed on these numbers. So he's going to come on probably around 6:30, 6:45. If you want to hear from him to break down some polls, some analysis of what we're seeing, voting trends, things like that. Like if you listen to the episode with him, you already know Homeboy is super, super smart. And it'll be fun to actually see Troy and Ryan have a conversation because they actually haven't met yet.
Yeah.
So this will be a fun night. So we'll get through election night together. Illicit substances for calming our nerves abound. It'll be great.
We will
We'll all be in this together.
we will have champagne in the fridge if Kamala wins and whiskey if she doesn't. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun night. It'll be
Whiskey
super
and
late for me.
luggage. I don't know about you. Like,
Yeah.
but it's fine.
Yeah. On that note, I'm going to do a little bit of a rant later as
I'm
a
gonna say, Troy,
current
get the
U.S.
apartment
expat.
ready for me. Yeah, no, seriously, Troy, get the apartment ready for me. All right, because
Get
you
the
are
apartment
definitely
ready, James. Yeah.
because you are definitely my landing post if I need to get the fuck out, is what I'm saying. And then I will like call
Well, you're first
relatives
on
in
the
England.
list. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, also,
But
like, I'll call the relatives and be like, all right, somebody find a place for me. I'm hanging out in Spain for a little bit. Y'all know the drill because they all hang out in Spain on weekends because they can.
I know half your relatives. They're all here in my building. It's all Brits here.
That would be
Yeah.
so cool. Like I know it's not true because I know I don't have anybody living in Spain right now, but it would be so fucking funny if you like moved all the way to fucking Spain and it turned out like my cousin was 3 doors down from you. I'd be like, "Oh god, you're going to get all the dirt. You're going to learn everything."
It wasn't. I mean, literally the people living next to us was an American married to a Danish guy with kids the same age as my daughter, and she had like the exact same educational background as my wife and I. So we made fast friends.
That's
But that was
amazing.
interesting.
That's so cool because I
Uh,
actually I will like after the show I'll talk to you because my cousin did live in Denmark for a little while. She lived in Copenhagen. So and her husband's like a bigwig. So it's possible we may have a couple degrees of separation here. Like you might know a guy who knows my family. So our worlds are merging, Troy. Isn't that fun?
That's insane. Oh, we got a packed show here. So we got a lot
On
to
that
get
note,
through.
like if I show up, like, will Emery remember me? Because she was only like 3
She
when I
may.
met her, right? She
She may.
You're
She
like,
may
Auntie
remember you for sure.
Kathy. I need to be Auntie Kathy.
We talk about you. We talk about Aunt Kathy. Yeah.
Aunt Kathy. You got to get a picture. I'm going to send you guys a picture and be like, you need to put this up in your house. So Emery knows exactly who I am at all times. Be like, that's Auntie Kathy. She read books in the car to me because I did. Because, well, you guys were being grown-ups. I was like, I'm going to hang out with the baby and read Dr. Seuss.
That's a perfect role for you to hang out with my kid. So we had okay. So the first thing is just the WAPO and LA Times thing. I don't even really want to get into it, but that was we've been off for so long, Kathy. We missed so much last week.
Well, it's like a week. Like we missed like 9. It's been 9 days. Okay, like I think I counted it, but it's just that so much happens in 9 days these days. But yeah, like that is just oligarchy is on the horizon, guys. That was your warning sign to not vote for Donald Trump because oligarchy, right there. Billionaires buying the media.
Owner of LA Times, Patrick Soon-Chong, not permitting his endorsement staff to make an endorsement. They were all set to endorse Kamala Harris at the LA Times. Editorials chief resigned, Mariel Garza from the LA Times. And then Jeff Bezos, who owns Washington Post, did not let his editorial team go forward with their endorsement of Kamala Harris. And that was some shady shit because not 24 hours later, Bezos's people at Blue Horizon were meeting with Trump's people. Very much looked like, Bezos had cut a deal to get some favors in a potential second Trump administration on his space travel shit. All of a sudden, like private space travel is just becoming, and Musk is doing all these favors for Trump to try and sweeten SpaceX and a second Trump admin. Like all of a sudden, these like private space companies are just hedging on our democracy to make space travel possible.
Do you know what I find funny about it though? Is that the same people who swear the moon landing was a hoax are the same people who love the billionaires building spaceships. Like,
yeah,
the math ain't mathin'. You know what I mean? It's just driving me nuts. But to this, the one thing I do want to say about this is that there has been a little bit of a Streisand effect to this, if you think about it, right? Like, you know what the Streisand effect is, right?
I do, but remind our listeners.
It's the idea, like it comes from the story about some photographer took a picture and posted it at Barbra Streisand's mansion. So she sued him for $50 million to get it offline. And like when she filed the lawsuit, 6 people had downloaded the picture. After she filed the lawsuit, 400,000 people had downloaded the picture.
Okay.
So basically, by bringing attention to the thing you didn't want to have attention, you inadvertently bring extra attention to it, right?
Okay.
So like the LA Times and the Washington Post didn't want to endorse because they didn't want attention. But the fact that they refused to endorse got more attention than probably their endorsement would have, and kind of outed a lot of the corruption that people are afraid is happening and may have inadvertently been what has broken the polls that we'll talk about later. Because they're like immediately after that, that's where the polls start to finally wobble a little. So an epic Streisand effect. Avoiding an endorsement essentially endorses. Therefore, I just think that's hilarious to me. Sometimes politics is fucking hilarious. So way to go, Bezos.
Yeah, it's pretty scummy. And then like hundreds of thousands of subscribers dropping off of Bezos's Washington Post. So
actually, here's my thing. So I considered that too. But then I thought about it and I was like, I don't want to. One, because like the press is in danger anyway, because people like try to get free news instead of paying for news, right? But also that punishes like journalism as an industry more than it, because Jeff Bezos he's a billionaire, right? Like Washington Post could go bankrupt and he's gonna be fine, right?
Yeah.
But the people that work for the paper, the reporters that work for the paper, they won't be. And then that's one less news source that we have available to count on. And even though he shut down the editorial board, here's what I can say. The editorial board made clear what they were going to do. So they weren't allowed to publish their endorsement, but they got across their endorsement, which to me is the power of a free press and a little bit of a message that like, how strong is the will of the people? Strong enough that even as oligarchy is shaping around us, we still have the power to pull it apart. Like, we, the people of these United States, have the power to make this a more perfect union. We have the power to establish justice and domestic, like, the preamble of the Constitution I always open with in my school lessons, like these are the promises of, like, these are our goals. It's not what we have done, it's what we promise to continuously do. What is a more perfect union? Acknowledgement that we can always be better. What is establishing justice? No, acknowledging that it is an ongoing battle, right? Like, all of these things, like secure the blessings of liberty, ongoing struggle. This is why, and this is what we came up with to ensure that happens. And the reporters of the Washington Post, in the face of oppression, basically said, you know what? Fuck you then. And I think it worked.
Yeah, and Bezos, like you said, Bezos does not give a shit about the Washington Post. He can leverage free speech. He can leverage the Washington Post for his other companies, which is what he's done. Yep. With the Blue Origin stuff. So yeah,
and that's why you should support podcasts like this one. Independent opinions, not controlled by billionaires trying to go to space. Because I promise, neither of us have any fucking money. Like, we're both broke as fuck.
The space-bound billionaire has become the enemy of the.
I actually like that phrase though, space-bound billionaire. I'm writing that down because it sounds like something I could add to a novel.
That's the name of our band.
Space-bound.
Do you want to talk some October surprises with an S, Cathy?
There's usually one. You'll see on the outline, it's just like everything Troy put there is just underneath it. Cathy has thoughts. Cathy has thoughts. And like the thoughts gets like more like bold as you go through. So
let's see what kind of order do we want to do this in? I don't know. Should we rank these? So an October surprise is usually
let's go through the bullet points and be like, all right, here's our list, and then we'll kind of like this, just so I know what's coming, and then we'll go through them in order because it's A through H list, y'all. Yeah. It's an A through H. I want H though. I'm gonna tell you, I was asking Ryan about that yesterday because I had missed it, so I don't really know. So you're gonna have to tell me about H. Okay.
Okay. Well, H came out like last night. Like H is brand new.
Oh, so I was probably at the free comedy show. Can I do it? Can I go through the list?
Yeah. Okay. Read the list. Okay. October surprises.
October surprises by Cathy. A is Tony Hinchcliffe's Puerto Rico island of floating garbage comment.
Ouch.
B is Trump says he will force the protection of women on us, whether we like it or not, because that's a way to win us over. Obviously, you can see thoughts there.
Do you consent to Trump's protection? He doesn't care. He's going to do it without your consent.
It doesn't matter if I consent or not. And that's the thing. Every woman in the world has heard whether you like it or not, right? Whether you were a child.
He said literally whether you like it or not. Like, what a dick.
The trigger of that particular phrase to women, he does not fully fucking understand, clearly, but we'll come back to that. C is Trump cosplays garbage man in every toddler's dream come true, right? I just moved my computer, so it made a sound. So that's what that was. Anybody asking? D is Vance says Trump will win the quote normal gay guy vote, which I guess is normal him coming out. Guys. I don't know. That's like I think maybe he's coming out. Like, he's got my vote. I'm a normal gay guy. I mean, what?
He wins the dudes who wear eyeliner vote. Is that what?
He wins the dudes with a beard wife vote. Yeah, I guess that's what he's saying. E, I can't believe there's an E, right? Trump, this one's hilarious too. Trump says RFK Jr., whose wife committed suicide because of his repeated infidelity, will be in charge of women's health. That's good. He also is going to pull all of that, whatever. We'll get to that. I know. F is Trump offers Liz Cheney up to firing squads. Always a good move.
F for firing squad. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. G is his simulated blowjob on the microphone of his rally.
What the fuck?
Which, given H, puts H into a new perspective for me a little bit, but that's fine. And H is the new Epstein tape that has come out, which I have not seen or heard of, but Troy made a list of things here that I'm going to let him tell us about because I don't know enough about them to say anything, and I'm very, 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 very interested about this list. So,
all right. So let's go through.
I almost want to start with H because I'm deadly curious.
You know what? I'm going to make you wait then. I'm going to make the.
I hate you so much.
Dead last.
Okay, fine.
Dead last. Yeah, that's the size
Whatever.
H right there.
I'm
That's the
used to
last
men
one.
oppressing me and it's deciding for me what I get to know and don't know.
We're gonna do that one
What's
last,
new?
whether you like it or not, Kathy.
Whether I
Whether
like it or not. Well played, sir. Well played.
Let's start with Hinchcliffe because that really set things
Mhm.
off. Okay, so this was the like Madison Square Garden, like this was the Nazi rally anyway, kind of a
Yeah.
throwback to the like
Circa
German American Bund
1939.
in
Yeah.
1939, where they had like the picture of George Washington surrounded by swastikas. It was like the
Oh my
pro
god.
American Nazi party having a rally in Madison
That
Square Garden.
was the day they served whiskey in hell to George Washington. They're like, George, you know what? No torture for you today. I understand the slavery thing, but right now you deserve a drink because woof.
That was the original sort of America First rally. So Trump decides
Yeah.
to have a Madison Square Garden rally. And it devolves into a complete fucking Nazi fest. Now, I'm just
Who
gonna
could have
play
seen that coming?
Hinchcliffe's clips here, but there was a lot of just horrific racist shit that went down at this. Now, Hinchcliffe is a roast comedian, the Kill Tony podcast. A lot of people trying to defend him because he's a roast comedian, which like right there or whatever. I mean, like
Then
this is
don't put him in a political
not,
rally.
like yeah, like don't if he's a noted and he, like his stuff is notably racist, like and anti-Semitic, like he says very, very offensive things, which is like fine if that's, but don't hire a racist, anti-Semitic shock roast comic for your political rally at Madison Square Garden when you're trying to avoid the allusions to the Nazi rally that happened there in the 1930s. Let me play the first set of racist garbage that came out of this guy's mouth.
Cool black guy with a thing on his head. What the hell is that? A lampshade? Look at this guy.
What the fuck is he
Oh
talking?
my goodness.
I don't get the lampshade.
He's heckling the crowd thing.
Wow. I'm just kidding. That's one of my buddies. He had a Halloween party last night. We had fun. We carved watermelons together. It was awesome. Believe it or not, people, I welcome migrants to the United States of America with open arms. And by open arms, I mean like this.
He's waving like don't like go back.
Go
Go
away,
back.
yeah.
It's wild. And these Latinos, they love making babies too. Just know that. They do. They do. There's no pulling out. They don't do that. They come inside, just like they did to our country.
So that was the warm up. That was that was the first part of his bit.
I have
Latinos
my
don't
God.
pull out; they just make babies, and yeah.
This is the party of the Christian conservatives, can I remind you? Like,
And then we get into the line of the evening here.
Absolutely wild times. It really, really is. And, there's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay. All right. Okay.
Like, when like the MAGA crowd is like, oh, I don't know, bro, that's a little over the line. You know that's. I mean, give me a fucking break, dude.
well, that was so stupid for so many reasons.
That wasn't even like, yeah.
But primarily, and because I think in the episode with me and Ryan, we were talking about this, right? Like, there's Latino men have been shifting toward Donald Trump, right? Because
Yeah.
a lot of the
This is a
machismo
good time
culture
to do this,
right? Like, seriously,
yeah.
like so fucking funny. Like, he's in New York, and I don't know if you know, but New York is like the number one state with a Puerto Rican population, and like the fourth highest state is Pennsylvania. Whatever,
Yeah,
we'll get to
Florida.
that in a second. And Florida, right? So like, the only thing Puerto Rican people love more than themselves is Puerto Rico. Here's what I'm going to say. Like, I'm going to be like, I have been punched in the face all of one time in my life, and it was by a Puerto Rican girl because I changed a song she liked. Like, you don't fuck with Puerto Rican people. Like, they are passionate. They are amazing people. I love them. They're fun. They're amazing to be around. But when I say you don't fight, like the way they can on a dime, like they will cut you because they're used to defending themselves in this way because they've been seen by Americans this way for so long that they get very, very protective of their their status as an American, because like the number of people in the United States to this day that don't understand Puerto Ricans are American born citizens, that like they don't have Puerto Rican currency. They use the US dollar. Like, we stole that. Like, and we did Puerto Rico so dirty. Okay. Like, we stole that country from them. Their number one export at the time was rum, right? Because like a Caribbean island, Caribbean rum, right? And so we stole their island from them and immediately enacted prohibition. So their number one import is now illegal because we stole you. Haha, we own you. And now you can't make the only thing you make. And we then condemn them for being a poor country. We made them a poor country. I obviously have feelings on what we did to Puerto Rico, right? And like, so here's what I'm saying. So you're finally making inroads with Puerto Rican voters. And in the 11th hour of your campaign, your go-to move is to be like, I hate you all. Just so you know, in case you didn't know, I think you're all garbage.
There is no way.
Like, what?
He's reading off of a teleprompter. There is no way that he did that off the cuff, that the campaign didn't know. In fact, it was confirmed that the campaign knew that that was what he was going to say. He's a famous racist roast comedian. They knew what they were getting into. It's, he's not new. He's been around for a while. This is what the guy does.
Yeah, because there was a story like there was another joke he was going to make calling Kamala Harris the C word, right? And they knew enough to know that was going too far, which means they acknowledged the Puerto Rico joke wasn't going too far. They didn't necessarily approve it, but they did not tell him to take it out the way they told him to take the other one out. So they know there's a line. They just don't think that's the line.
They took out the Kamala C word joke because that crossed the line, but this Puerto Rico one they thought would
totally fine.
Would land, and even it didn't even land. It wasn't even funny. People were like, "Oh, I don't know."
Not even the room liked that joke, so you're in trouble.
That didn't even play to the room. Puerto Rico is in fact a U.S. territory. They are citizens. Can't vote in Puerto Rico, but they can in the U.S. and they do.
Also beautiful. Like, have you ever seen Puerto Rican like to say it's a garbage, well, you've never been there because it is beautiful.
My favorite gaslighting was when they were trying to for a few days, people were trying to say that he was referring to the fact that Puerto Rico has a landfill problem, and it was like, oh no, he was just discussing the garbage buildup problem in Puerto Rico. That's what he was.
That's awesome. Let's talk about that. Why is that happening? Because Donald Trump abandoned them after 2 back-to-back hurricanes and only threw paper towels at them. So okay, let's take your spin and run with it. Like, there's no way this isn't that.
It's so funny living in Spain and just
oh my God.
coming from the Western United States and living in what was formerly the Spanish Empire, which went from Sacramento to Buenos Aires.
I just realized that.
And then coming to Spain, and you realize that so all these little countries that basically we fought Spain in 1898, 1899, 1900. We went to war with Spain. We took all of their territories that they still had left in the Western
Remember
Hemisphere,
the Maine,
including Puerto Rico. And all of those people were so grateful that we came in because they thought we were going to be giving them the Bill of Rights, that they thought they would be free of the Spanish Empire and would be receiving the freedom of the United States. So it turns out we were worse than the Spanish, and the Spanish king, to this day, these countries will ask, not all of them, but a lot of these countries will ask the Spanish king for his blessing when they form a new government. The U.S. was so bad to these countries that they sort of missed the Spanish Empire. But
if you wonder why Cuba fell to communism, it was because it was that or us. And given our history with the Caribbean, I think I'd have trusted Stalin.
Yeah. So Puerto Rican is just furious. 1.5 million Puerto Ricans in Florida, 500,000 Puerto Ricans in Pennsylvania. The most crucial swing state. They lost J-Lo. They lost, what was it, Bad Bunny? They lost a lot of. There was even a guy who had come
out and endorsed him and came out and said, never mind, I don't endorse him anymore. I can't remember that guy's name. But,
huge couple different massive 1 million+ follower influencers that were totally MAGA switched after that.
That's what I'm saying.
A lot of people offended. A lot of people really offended by that shit.
Yeah, that would be like Donald Trump coming out and saying Christians are stupid right now. It would be the same thing. It's a part of your voting base, bro.
That you always were looking for something to stick. Nothing ever sticks to Donald Trump, and occasionally some things do. This one was bad. This one was bad for his campaign. Puerto Ricans none too happy. Latinos none too happy. A lot of J-Lo said it in her speech. It wasn't just Puerto Ricans that were offended.
And as somebody who lives in Florida, I can tell you, who did that have legs, right? I came like
How did the
after it
Cubans
happened.
respond to that? Do you think they responded to that at all?
Where I am, because I'm in Central Florida, like most of the Cuban population is down south in South
Yeah.
Florida. Up here is the Puerto Rican population, right?
Okay.
Because it just like for a lot of reasons,
They
but
moved
because
north.
we have a lot of
Yeah.
like New York transplant families that came down here, right? And New York
Yeah.
had a lot of so like by
All the
proxy.
Puerto Ricans went to New York. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and plus also like geographically we're very close to Puerto Rico, just like we are Cuba. So like
Yeah.
Cubans end up staying in Miami because they had to escape Cuba and like land as close as they could. And it's a 90-mile like boat ride between Cuba and Miami. So they got to Miami, they stayed in Miami. Puerto Ricans free to travel into the United States.
Yeah.
They
A
have a
little bit different.
broader reach, right? So for them, it's just the cheapest flight is to Florida, and the international airport options are Miami or Orlando. So if you're trying to fly in and you know Cubans are populated down south, you're probably going to go to Orlando. And there's a lot of jobs in Orlando, especially, because Puerto Rico is kind of a tourist economy. Orlando is a tourist economy. So it's an easy transition for them to make. So we have a lot of Puerto Ricans in Central Florida. And when I say I went into school the following day and like the kids were ready, they were like, Miss Cannon, did you see? And I was like, I just kind of let them hash
You're
it
like, you
out
should have been like,
amongst.
what? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, like I just kind of like I didn't talk about it as a class thing like in general, but like they were doing their notes and stuff, and I was walking around the class and like they were talking about it, and like it has legs, and like
Yeah, for sure.
they are, and like I heard one girl talking about how her dad was just like raging about it after she saw it. And she's like, and I don't know, he was like, he kind of liked Donald Trump, and I was like, but he was so mad, like, and I'm just like overhearing the conversations, right? So you can tell they're like just kind of honest, like talking shit about your parents to your friends kind of conversations. And whoa boy, like
Well,
I've been
the thing
saying
is
Florida could
like,
flip for a while, but like that might have ended up that comment
I
might
think,
cost Rick Scott his Senate seat because we have a Latina like running against him. I'm
yeah,
just saying.
I don't know. If I still don't think Kamala's going to win Florida, but it might cost him Pennsylvania. It
But
might
it might,
cost Rick Scott.
yeah. Oh, it
That's
does.
some,
Yeah.
that's some crazy shit. The largest newspaper in Puerto Rico, on the way of Dia, came out and with a blistering endorsement of Kamala Harris, rebuke of Donald Trump. It would be one thing if, Donald Trump had a history of good relations with Puerto Rico, and this was kind of like a one-off, and he was able to apologize and be like, look,
Or if he was willing to come out and
I,
straight up condemn it, which he
I,
still won't do.
he still won't do it, but it would be one thing if he could come out and go, look, some comedian said this shit. I did XYZ for Puerto Rico. This guy shit all over Puerto Rico when he was president. It wasn't just the hurricane. He wanted to trade Puerto Rico for Greenland. He didn't realize that Puerto Rico was part of the United States. I mean, he like his Puerto Rico policy was a disaster. 3,000 Puerto Ricans died in that hurricane. They didn't do shit. He initially refused to send aid. They're still
Yeah, like they had to
recovering from.
tell him he had to. I'm
Yeah.
like, no. Like we own that island. You have to help.
They're still recovering from Trump's non-response to that. A lot of like Trump aligned billionaires are buying up huge SWAT, like they're still living with mass poverty. A lot of these American bro influencers are buying up mass swaths of property. Trump Tower Puerto Rico was like a massive like fuck you thing that happened on that island too, that a lot of people were pissed off about, contract labor and all that. So he's done a lot of harm to Puerto Rico.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like a lot of that got lost to the pandemic, right? Because like the Hurricane Maria happened before, but Puerto Rico was without power for 181 days. Like that is an entire school year. Like that is the length of our school year. We go to school for 181 contact days.
Yeah.
Like it spans throughout longer than that. But like, imagine if you went through an entire school year and the power in your school never worked. That's how Puerto Ricans lived under the last Trump administration.
In a tropical,
and now he has
island.
the gall to call their island garbage after he basically trashed it. Like that's like coming to your house, throwing a party, like absolutely like trashing a person's house up and down, wake up in the morning and be like, God, you live like a slob.
Yeah. It's pure racism. It's pure racism.
It's disgusting.
If it was an island of white people, they would absolutely not be saying stuff like that.
If it was an island of white people, he'd already be like, he'd have his own Mar-a-Lago down there by now.
Well, he has Trump Tower in Puerto Rico. Yeah. A lot of pissed off people about how that building was
How
constructed.
that went down. I forgot he had that, honestly.
So
he never
yeah, we
visits
have
that one. Notice
what's that?
he never visits that one. Notice.
Yeah, he never was there. I think that was one that he like licensed. He didn't actually like he just licensed his name. But yeah, so that was the big one. The Puerto Rican fallout, massive again, Florida, Pennsylvania, New York. Then B, he said he was gonna force his protection on women with or without their consent. A lot, he was going on this whole thing about like how women wouldn't have to worry about abortion. He was gonna be their protector, which right there, like what the fuck is he talking about?
Yeah, what do you mean by protector exactly, Mr. Grab him by the pussy?
Yeah. If anyone's not going to be a protector of women, it's going to be grab him by the pussy guy.
Mr. Convicted of sexual assault.
Thanks, but no thanks, guy.
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
But yeah, so he said that he would. He literally went into a speech talking about how his campaign team had told him not to use the word protector because it sounded ick and misogynistic, and giving it his history, it didn't sound good. He straight up threw his campaign advisors under a bus and then went out and said that, like, I don't care what my team says, I'm going to protect our women, whether they like it or not. It's like,
and he'll blame that same team when he loses after not listening to them. So,
oh God, can you imagine being? Because these are like professional people that have tried their hardest to rein Trump in, and
it was working until Kamala was the candidate. He just like literally, remember how I said he will, like, his racism will be too powerful to overcome. Like, he could do it with Joe Biden because they said, just stay quiet, let Joe Biden like loot because,
just
whatever.
Just say nothing, let Joe Biden shoot himself in the foot.
But as soon as there was a woman, right, he couldn't hold back. Make it a black woman, he couldn't hold back. And it's just, you have seen nothing but a consistent devolution of Donald Trump since Kamala Harris hit the stage. And I think that's
he can't handle it. He can't handle it. Republicans can't handle it. They don't know how they have from day one. And you and I talked about this, Cathy, when we were running, when Biden was still in, and we were running through possible scenarios. We talked about the fact that Kamala would be a horrendous opponent for them because there's no way they can hit her except on the misogyny stuff, calling her a slut, hitting her on the women can't lead stuff. Then there's the race stuff, person of color stuff. Like, it was such a trap that was set for them, and they fall in it 20 times a day. It's crazy.
Yep. And they're like so high on their own supply here, right? Like they've eaten up so much of their own propaganda that, to an extent, I think they honestly think there are in fact women who agree with them, and there probably are, but it's like the trad wife crowd. It's not a majority of women by any means. It might be a majority of the women you associate with because they're the only ones that will associate with you. But I guarantee you, that ain't all of us.
The next one was the garbage man. So after the Puerto Rico garbage, Biden comes out and says that the only garbage are he tried to say like it was some sort of apostrophe, like he was the Trump supporters apostrophe-esque garbage, referring to Tony Hinchcliffe specifically. But anyway, Biden comes out and basically calls Trump supporters garbage, which, like, let's be honest, they are.
At this point,
like, let's just be honest, like, Trump supporters are garbage. And and it's like it's fucking hilarious that they were also offended that Biden said that, because you're going to spend 4 years like calling Biden a corrupt pedophile who showered with his daughter and all this, like, fuck Joe Biden, let's go Brandon. And then Biden goes, you know what, fuck you too, and they all lose their,
I can't believe you would say that about us. Here's my favorite thing about this, though. Like, I love this so much because, like, nobody's paying attention to Joe Biden, right? Like, we all know he's still there.
Nobody cared. Nobody cares.
Like, nobody cares at all, right? And they're trying to make this big deal because they still think they're running against Joe Biden. Quite clearly, it's the only thing they're prepared to do. So, like, ironically,
they hate that they're not running against Joe Biden. It was like all they had.
And it's like, so this trash jump thing, like, they're trying to be like, oh yeah, it was Biden that said the trash thing, not us.
Yeah.
But nobody cares about the Biden comment, or nobody heard the Biden comment. So all you're really doing in the mind of most Americans is, after having called Puerto Rico an island of garbage, now you're driving a garbage truck dressed up like a garbage man. So, like,
it looks like you're doubling down on the Puerto Rico's garbage.
Like, those of us who are super plugged in know about the Joe Biden thing, but ask random Random Joe America. Nobody fucking heard about it. So
They
what
have no
most
idea.
people are seeing is Puerto Rico's an island of trash. I'm the president. Here's my dump truck. I'm going to mass deport people. So what it looks like is I'm going to use my garbage truck to round up the people I think are garbage and mass deport them. And that is his closing message for the
Yeah, that was literally his like one of his main closing rallies. He comes out
and he
in a
thinks he's
garbage
so
man's
clever
outfit.
for it. He thinks he's so fucking clever. Okay. Like, it was so bad, Troy. And I meant to send this to you, but I felt weird sharing a Nick Fuentes tweet. But like, he lost Nick Fuentes on this one. Like, the world is so upside down that I agreed with Nick Fuentes this morning, because he said that watching like the Trump supporters show up at the
Nick
rally.
Fuentes like, that's racist, man.
No. He doesn't care about the racism part. He says Trumpism is a cult because he sees people showing up at the rally wearing trash bags and like trash for Trump. Like that's cult behavior. Like, even Nick Fuentes is like, okay, that's a bit far, right? Like, I like the racism too, but you can't be wearing trash bags for the motherfucker. Like,
the Puerto Rican thing immediately followed by the cosplay garbage man thing. That was the, like, Ben Meiselas tweeted this morning. He's like, I feel like half of America just realized that they've been in a trance. I think that finally dislodged a lot of people. Not everyone. I mean, obviously it's a cult. Like, these people are still deep in it, but like people like people that were kind of on the periphery, like Nick Fuentes, being like, what the fuck? This is not normal. This is not, especially when he films himself. He can't walk. He's like dragging his back leg. Everybody was reminded that he was rushed to Walter Reed Hospital last year or whatever.
Which, based on his movements and speech, I think he had a stroke.
People speculating that he had a mini stroke because he could not walk. He could not get into this garbage truck. It was bizarre. He's been slurring his words a lot. Put Vivek Ramaswamy on the back of the truck. All his little the
fact that he was willing to, like, the way they just, like, it was so fucking like, I'm a simp for this man. It was so pathetic to see,
Fell so far flat. We were speculating that Biden's playing 3D chess again, and he could just call these people anything. He'd be like, they're all a bunch of fucking ass grabbing clowns, and like the next
and they'll all dress
Trump
up like clowns and run around grabbing each other's asses.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's fucking ridiculous, bad, man.
Falling flat.
But I guarantee you that there's a huge swath of Americans right now who have been like trying to defend him for so long, and people in their lives have been telling them, like, I know there are people in my lives who have been telling me for years that, like, you're being exaggerating. He's not that bad, blah, 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 blah. Who, like, I think are all realizing, oh shit, he is everything they told me he was. Yeah. They weren't just being dramatic. I was being an ignorant fuck. I'm a little embarrassed that I said that. Remember, 10 years from now, you'll be hard pressed to find a Trump supporter.
Well, yeah, and then okay, so if all this wasn't enough, and you have people like legitimately starting to going like, oh, because they're so used to watching Fox News and Newsmax and OAN and Right Side Broadcasting and Real America's Voice that just fucking cultivate this image as this of Trump as this perfect candidate who never makes mistakes, and he's so confident, he does everything right. And to see him in a garbage outfit after this Puerto Rican thing, he just looked fucking ridiculous. And you have so many people that are finally just being like, oh, okay, I don't know. This is bad. Then he gets into the fucking, and I'm jumping around, he gets into the Liz Cheney should be executed by firing squad. Like, this is fucking insane. This is the craziest thing.
But his daughter is a very dumb individual, very dumb. She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. When the guns are trained on her face.
Like, even the crowd is like, oh.
Like, this is uncomfortable. Like, I don't think I should be supporting this.
Just say that. Tucker Carlson has like a horrified look on his face, sitting there talking about putting Liz Cheney in front of 9 barrels shooting at her.
Yeah, because Tucker Carlson was just a few years ago, like, sucking Dick Cheney's dick on TV, if you remember, right? Supporting the very wars Donald Trump is criticizing Liz Cheney. Like,
let's we can't. You don't get to hide from the fact that these were the same people who 10 years ago were all about this shit. about these wars.
Like Tucker Carlson's part of the reason we were fighting those wars because he sold it to people as like oddly enough defending democracy around the world. Like remember they sold us George W. Bush's wars because we were spreading democracy around the world. Now those very same people are like, remember, we're not a democracy, we're a republic because I don't know what words mean.
Yeah, it was. Oh God, that was bad. So again, trying to gaslight people and saying that's not what he meant. I don't know what you could possibly.
What else could you mean?
Extrapolate from that? He literally says, "Let's stand her there and shoot her. Like, let's shoot her." He doesn't just say point a gun at her to scare her. He says point guns and shoot
on her face, like
and shoot. He said, "Let's point rifles at her and shoot." Like this is a death threat. This is a full-on death threat, and he is a private citizen, and she is a private citizen. It's a death threat.
Yeah, it was
she
so
should
bad.
Press charges. Like,
well, Joe Biden, you saw the statement, right? He like issued a statement how he's like at great cost to the taxpayers, issuing like round-the-clock Secret Service protection to Liz Cheney and her family because of the political rhetoric, and this is an expensive thing. And straight up says that wouldn't be necessary if not for the rhetoric of Donald Trump. I like read that statement, and I was like, "Fucking go, Joe!" You know, like fuck you, like. Lame Duck Joe is the best Joe, is what I'm saying. Like, Lame Duck Joe is the best Joe.
Yeah, he gives zero fucks. And good on him.
I love him for it.
Yeah. I think nobody gives a fuck what Biden says right now. Like, it's not like Biden's not running. He's in the last few months of his political career. I mean, just let the guy say what he wants to say. No one cares. Yeah. The only people that Biden are going to offend are like, we're never going to vote for Kamala to begin with. So
the people you're going to offend are the people desperate to be offended. Like they want you to upset them. They want you to hurt their feelings because their entire personality is contingent on being able to complain about the mean lefties saying bad things about them.
Yeah, because they can dish it out, but they can't take it.
Because they can't.
Kathy, this was all last week. This is all 1 week.
I know.
1
it was
week.
Like a fever
this is
dream.
Insane. We're not even done yet. Like we're not. We're like
I know.
Halfway through.
We're on C. I said we go all the way to H, guys, and I need H. Okay, so
I know we're working our way to H. So this is okay. So threatening Liz Cheney's life, which again, like, given the history of this man, given the history of his supporters, the fact that like we literally had Nancy Pelosi and her husband had his skull crushed in by a Trump supporter. Like somebody we already knew that somebody was probably planning to take a pot shot at Liz Cheney over all this, let alone this like firing squad shit. And now we have SCOTUS who decided to give this man fucking presidential immunity if he ever comes back. Like, at what point is he going to claim that putting Liz Cheney in front of a firing squad is an official act of his presidency that he's now?
He would claim that immediately. He basically just told us that. Because he'd be allowed to, under this Supreme Court ruling, discuss it at length with the Department of Justice, trump up charges on her based on whatever, you like it would happen immediately, and you know it. Like we all know it.
Yeah.
So bad.
Yeah. Oh, bad. Working our way through here. JD Vance says that he and Trump will. Now we get to the other half of the ticket. JD Vance says that he and Trump will win the normal gay guy vote.
I wouldn't be surprised if me and Trump won just the normal gay guy vote, because again, they just wanted to be left the hell alone, and now you have all this crazy stuff on top of it. That
okay, Kathy, what is the normal gay guy vote? Like,
I don't know. I don't know what that means, but like I think what maybe JD Vance assumes is like Ryan, right? Like Ryan's your normal gay guy. He like, just like a preppy guy who's gay. Like I think in JD Vance's worlds, there's gay guy, like Pete Buttigieg gay guy, right? Like and then there's flamboyantly gay. And we know it's the flamboyantly gay that they don't like because it makes them uncomfortable, even though JD Vance too has a penchant for eyeliner, right? But that's where I think their beef comes from. Like the loud and proud gay. They don't mind you being gay as long as you're like, respectfully closeted about it. Like just be quiet about it. Not that like people, like not to say they are, but you know what I mean? Like, do you look gay when I look at you is I think what he means by normal gay guy. This is what I am deducing from JD Vance.
I think it's the trans thing. They've been trying to do this for a while, like divide the LGBTQ community against itself and be like, there's a difference between like a normal gay guy and like a icky trans guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like in their mindset that makes sense. Like you could be like a gay, you could just be like a gay guy and be one of the bros. It'd just be totally fine. Like you're just one of the bros. You just happen to like having sex
Like
with
you still
men.
watch football, you're cool. You just
There's
like
a difference
guys.
between that image in their head and like the trans community, which they find to be very
because it's
icky.
just because they don't understand that like trans does not equal gay. Like I don't know
I
why
know,
that's
that's
so
my point, is they have no
hard
idea
for
what they're
them to
talking about.
grasp. But like they kind of did that a little bit way back. If you remember, I don't know if you remember this because it was the 90s, but like once upon a long ago, there was a weird like turning gay men and lesbians kind of against each other, right? Like
Yeah.
right. And
There
then when
was like
that
they're like, let's isolate the lesbians, and like it's not,
right.
being
And
gay
then
is okay, but being a lesbian is not okay, like kind of thing.
I thought it was the other way around because
Or maybe the
they're
other way
gross.
around, I don't know. But
Yeah,
yeah,
because
one of
they're
those.
okay with
Yeah.
because it's the men on men thing that really bothers them because it makes them uncomfy. But like
Because we hate
women
gay
being
people, but like
yeah,
like right-wing men hate gay people, but the most commonly viewed porn among right-wing men is lesbian porn.
is lesbian porn is so funny to me, right? And I think that's what it is like in their minds, lesbians just need a good man, right? And they'll come
Right,
back,
exactly.
right? I even remember one time it was like some bright, I wish I could remember his name now because I want to say this is like back in college. This was a long time ago, right? But he kind of went on this tirade. He's like, I understand gay men, but I don't understand lesbians because sometimes you just need dick. And I was just like, I think you're
Oh,
confessing
he
some
needs
stuff
dick.
right now. He's like, yeah. I was like, that you don't like think you're confessing right now, but it was really funny. But then when like the pitting gay men and lesbians didn't work about like then they tried to turn it like gay versus bisexual, like oh bisexual isn't real, this is just people that want to be in on the trend of being gay, bisexual isn't a real thing. And then that didn't work, so now trans is like so they tried like to turn gay and lesbian against each other, that didn't work, so they tried to turn gay and lesbian against bisexual, that didn't work, so now they're trying to turn gay, lesbian, bisexual against trans, that's not work. Like you can keep trying, guys, but it could just be that we see humans as humans and you should work on that.
Well, they made a dent in it because I don't know, like a year ago or whatever, you had these like they were already like gay Republicans. They were like right-wing gay guys, but they were saying that like
the log
they
cabin
didn't want
Republicans,
it was the whole when like we were in the middle of all the groomer hysteria that everybody was being groomed, that like there was this mass conspiracy to turn
no, that's just your church, honey. That's just your
like the drag queens were trying to molest children, and teachers were trying to molest children, and there was this like backlash among sort of the more conservative gay community, like we don't want to be associated with the trans community because we don't want to be slapped with the stigma of groomer. So they found like an in there, and now there's I think they're trying to exploit that.
So fucking
but
gross,
along
man.
those lines,
they say Trump is he's very good with men. I don't know. Thank you, man. Thank you, man. No, I'm through the roof with men. She ain't catching us, man. Let me tell you. No, I'm great with men, but I'm sort of like soft with the women. So
great with men.
We know, honey. We know you get soft with
the
women. That's why you have to pay them.
Just a little soft with those women.
Just
great with the men.
With the women. Great with the men. Rock hard for men, right? little soft for the women.
Yeah, rock hard support.
This is what gets me fired. You see, it's moments like these where I make those jokes because they just come so naturally. Yeah, they come naturally. I'm gonna stop now. I'm just gonna go.
Not when we get to age. I don't know that we can make too many gay jokes about Trump, knowing what's coming up here.
I think that's why, because I'm so anticipating.
I'm edging Cathy right now on this.
I need to know the gossip. I need the tea. As I drink my
gossip
coffee,
edging.
I need the tea.
Okay. Where are we here? Okay, I've completely lost track. Garbage man forcing his protection on women.
Oh, RFK.
I think we're RFK. Okay, so Trump. So again, this is 1 week. This is all 1 week. Trump said that RFK Jr. We can kind of fly through this one because like whatever. Trump says that RFK Jr. will be in charge of women's health. Like, okay, as a woman, are you excited about the prospect?
I'm good. I'm golden. Again, get your apartment ready just in case. I just think this is fucking wild. Like, because then RFK is going off talking about, because it's not just women's health. If you paid attention, he's going to put him in charge of healthcare in
healthcare.
general. And RFK has come. Yeah, he's come up. He's like, I'm going to pull all the vaccines off the market, like including polio. He's like, well, nobody gets polio anymore. I'm like, yeah,
because people are vaccinated. You dumb fuck.
Like, remember the Ruth Bader Ginsburg quote? It's like putting away your umbrella in a rainstorm because you're not wet. Like,
yeah,
it's working. That's why you're not wet, right? Like, we don't have polio. Because
Speaking of getting wet, did you see the video
That was
of
your
Trump
fault,
giving a Trump simulating fellatio on a
Jesus.
microphone?
I can assure you that got nobody wet. I promise.
It probably got the microphone a little wet because I think he
You know
did
what?
actually.
I'm gonna get in so much trouble. I can feel myself getting fired in this moment.
So he, I don't even know. I didn't pull the clip because it's just like whatever. But like he,
I'm good
apparently
not
he was.
seeing it again. I promise. I'm pretty sure you can
I don't
find
know
it if
that I
you
want to
need it.
subject people to that, but I guess the microphone. He was having technical difficulties and just was going off on how bad his tech staff was, and then just started basically like jerking off the microphone and pretending to
I
give
love
it a
that that's his
BJ.
like go-to move though. Like that's telling,
Yeah.
right? Like, oh, here's the action that I'm gonna so effortlessly mimic. Like, why are you so good at that, Donnie?
It was an impressive blowjob. I'm not gonna lie. He seems like he's had some experience with that. You wrote a good Christian man, obviously.
I did a good Christian man, obviously. I mean, I could see why the religious vote is going his way. You know,
So that was like 2 nights ago. Of course, my sense of time is off, so it's like I can't remember if it was morning or night because I'm usually I'm about 12 hours off. But do you see that Midas did they did the meme, they did the like jealous girlfriend meme where the guy's like looking back, like the couple's walking, the guy's looking back, and it was Trump and Melania walking, and Trump was looking back at a podium with a microphone.
That's so fucking funny. Oh my god,
I thought that was funny.
You guys are pure gold sometimes, I tell you.
Oh, and then finally we get to number H, letter H.
Here we go.
New Epstein tapes came out, reported on by the Daily Beast, which has actually been doing it. I think Daily Beast is like shutting down or something. They're going bankrupt.
Really?
But, like,
oh well, because they're like funded through like donations and stuff, aren't they?
Yeah, they have like a severe financial problem or whatever. But they've been doing good reporting this cycle. They
going out with a bang, I guess. Like,
yeah, they came out with these new Epstein tapes. I'm not going to play them, but we can run through some of the highlights here. So, just new intimate details about Donald Trump. So apparently, the first thing is the first time. So he was talking about this section of tapes. Epstein was talking about how close he was to Trump, and ostensibly the context of the conversation was that he knew all these things about Trump, which is like gold. Like this is kind of what we've been waiting for.
mm-hmm.
Apparently, the first time that Melania and Donald fucked was on Epstein's plane, was on the Lolita Express. That was the first time that they had sex.
Wow.
Apparently apparently Epstein has a ton of footage, pictures of Trump with young girls sitting topless, or just women sitting on his lap topless. Let's see some of these other ones. Epstein painted a complicated portrait of Trump. He called him charming and always fun, capable of extraordinary salesmanship, and suggested he was personally in favor of Trump's policies on quote unquote the transgender stuff. Again, back to that. But he alleged that Trump was a serial cheat in his marriages and loved to fuck the wives of his best friends. Apparently, Trump had a thing for cuckolding his friends. He was very attracted to his friends' wives, and he had like a kink for fucking his friends' wives, and he would cuckold them, which in the truest sense, it means he made them watch. I don't know if it doesn't get into that much detail, but it does say that he was very into committing adultery, sleeping with the wives of his male friends, which is why Epstein basically said that he said Trump has friends, but he was at his heart, quote, a friendless man incapable of kindness. He also alleged that Trump had scalp reduction surgery for baldness.
What even is scalp reduction surgery? That's what I need to know.
I think it's like a tummy tuck. I think they just like wrap skin
head,
over it,
like
over itself. They just cover up the bald parts of the skin.
I'm gonna Google this really quick.
This alone, like Epstein said, I was Donald's closest friend for 10 years. So just a lot of interesting stuff in these tapes. This was yesterday that this came out. So first
Now, is
time
this the one that like, is this the story that everyone, you remember like last week, they were all dancing around, like there's a story that if it comes out, it's career ruining for Donald Trump, but then it kind of disappeared. Is this that, or is that still something else we don't know?
Maybe this feels like, I feel like that would have been worse than this. I feel like this is kind of I mean, this is pretty bad.
I mean, it's
I feel
bad, but
that
it's like
might have been
also
worse,
not
though.
surprising at all. Like there's
Yeah,
nothing
it's not surprising at
there.
all.
I was expecting it to be racier.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's evidence of like him, like I could see him forcing guys to watch him fuck their wives. Like given how we've seen like the rabid nature of the cults, like you tell me Donald Trump goes up to Vivek Ramaswamy and says like, "Hey, you're gonna sit here and watch me fuck your wife." He's gonna let him, right? Tucker Carlson's gonna let him.
100%.
JD Vance would probably let him. Like
these dudes are just dancing for him, for his entertainment. They would absolutely like Vivek Ramaswamy would absolutely be all in on it.
And I can't figure it out. Like Donald Trump, what is it about this guy? Like he's never seemed charming or like all of these things. Like I get that he can be funny sometimes, but like he's gross funny. He's not like genuine funny, you know? I don't know.
This guy is so just icky. He just, everything about him is gross. I mean, it'd be one thing if he was like Andrew Tate is a rapist, but Andrew Tate is an attractive guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like at least Andrew Tate has like,
I don't know. Like to me, I know too much about him to see him as attractive, and maybe that's part of what it is,
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is like he just becomes icky, but like Trump is just naturally icky. I mean he's just a gross guy.
Yeah, like even in his prime when they're like, "Oh, he was so handsome," I look and I was like, "Was he though, or was he wealthy? Was he wealthy and okay?" Like that's the thing. Like had Donald Trump not been a billionaire, whatever, would you still have found him attractive in his youth? Or was he just kind of a normal, average dude who happens to be a billionaire, so you could stomach looking at him? Because I think I know the answer.
Weirdo. He's always Then there's like the IBS stuff too. I mean, he's he wears diapers. He's got like all these weird medical issues. But yeah, like okay,
which
so
wouldn't
apparently
be a problem if he wasn't bragging about his virility. Like
oh, that was the other thing is he's yesterday he was trying to say that he was the father of IVF or something like that, but he said he was like, or he said he was the father of fertility. He was trying to say in vitro fertilization, but he just said, "I am the father of fertility." Like I was like,
what does that even mean? Like, oh
God. It was pretty bad. So, I mean, basically Epstein just alleging in these tapes that Trump is kind of a sex maniac, kind of a sex addict. Just the time they spent together was just confirming nothing like, Trump fucked a 14-year-old, nothing that direct, but like he was on the plane. He was having sex with Melania on the plane. They were surrounded by naked women. He was fucking his friends' wives, like just basically a constant. He was on the island, just basically a constant like sex fest. While during the sort of the Haiti days of Trump and Epstein's friendship. So and working Melania into that too. Like they've been trying their hardest to like class up Melania. I mean, Melania was on the Epstein's plane too, and
Melania was an Epstein girl that got made an honest woman.
Melania is, was friends with Ghislaine. They both were like, like don't give Melania a pass on that.
Yeah, she's just as disgusting. Too. Like, yeah, exactly. She's not a victim here, right? At all.
So
no, but like, remember how after Epstein died in prison, like they immediately tried to spin it like, oh, the Clintons had him killed. I think one thing that could come from this little thing is perhaps we'll all start taking a more reasoned look at what happens to Epstein because he died in federal prison. The federal prisons at that time were under the control of the executive branch of the government, which was under the control of Donald Trump, who, given what Epstein knows about him, I think I know who killed Epstein. Just saying, because he's his best friend, sure, but as he stated as well, he doesn't really have friends. I was his best friend in that I supplied him the most women to fuck. That's what that means.
Yeah, that was sort of the takeaway. It was like, Trump was a very charming man, but he didn't have any friends. He was sort of a friendless figure.
Yeah, so. He's like a shyster car salesman who talks you into buying a shit car, and you realize after you're driving the shit car, he wasn't that nice, was he? Like. No, he wasn't. That Legally Blonde like it was just so good. Like that whole sketch, the whole cold open was good. And I was talking to Ryan about this when I was watching it last night because it was you were asleep. There was actually no, it would have been 7 a.m. I could have. I'm so bad at no. Okay, you're like no, fuck you. I wasn't asleep. but I'm so bad at time zones. But it was so good because everything about it was adorable, right? Because even the way they had like the Joe Biden come out kind of being like old and, oh, okay, Joe, right? Was a way of both humanizing Joe Biden a little bit to make him like, oh, we love you, Joe, right? But also kind of dismissing any of the comments or like things he says. Cause like, he's an old guy. He's on his way. He did his job. He's allowed to be a goofy old man. Thanks, Joe. We love you, right? So it kind of solved that little issue, as well as like, making it fun and silly again. The Doug and like, I love me some Dougie, and like I even love like spoof butt Dougie. Maya Rudolph is such a good Kamala that like
she's really
just
good.
listening to that sketch, it's hard to figure out which one is which,
I know.
And also Kamala Harris is so fucking pretty. Like when she first came on, like that beaming smile, like she has such a great, like genuine, warm smile. And I loved that moment because it was just so like adorable. And I called that because like Ryan had texted me, he goes, she's making a dramatic appearance or a rerouting herself to New York. What do you think could be going on? Is it going to be a George W. Bush indoor? Like what's going on? And I was like, probably a special appearance on Saturday Night Live. And then for a moment I was like, with special guest star Taylor Swift, but she had a concert in Indianapolis, so that didn't happen. But she's also off the night of that big Philly rally that like all of the other like big stars are going to be at. So
Taylor, you mean?
Like because she has concerts the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, but then she's off on the 4th, and I think the 4th that Monday, and that Monday's that big Philly rally, right?
Yeah.
So like it would be her last chance to do something big. It would also be a perfect time because everybody fucking else is there. So, and I'm just saying. I'd love to see her come out in the Eagles. Here's what I would love to see, though. I would love if Taylor shows up for her to show up in a Jason Kelce Philadelphia Eagles jersey, right? One, because it would really go far in Pennsylvania. She's from Pennsylvania, right? It's a little family dynamic, so it's not really like turning on her brother or anything. But also, this isn't in the outline because it only happened yesterday, but did you see how like at the Penn State game, some kid like went up to Travis or to Jason Kelce and he just basically like smashed his phone?
Yeah.
So I think it would be a good nod to that. Like, I'm going to support my brother-in-law's team right now because he looked out for me, because I'm going like, I just think it would be a good moment, right? Because before she dated Travis Kelce, there are pictures of her wearing Philadelphia Eagles gear, right? Because like I said, she's from Philadelphia. So I think Taylor Swift shows up Monday at that big fucking concert rally in an Eagles jersey, not with Travis or with Jason and Travis on either arm, like walks out with the Kelce boys, and even if all of them are wearing Phillies, like I don't think Travis would be allowed to under contract, but like I think it could what I'm saying is,
I love that Taylor Swift is nowhere on this outline, and you just spent like 5 minutes talking about Taylor Swift.
I am in like.
You're in love with
I love
Swift.
Me some Taylor Swift. Like,
no, I get it.
No, like we're soulmates. So I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna do like the thing Taylor Swift fans do. I was born December 9th, 1981. She was born December 13th, 1989. Right. So I'm the beginning of the decade. She's the end of the decade. We're both Sagittarius, right? Like we're connected. She and I
love that grown ass women have for this other pop star woman is astounding. I appreciate it. I'm not
the lyrics.
I'm not mocking you much. I just think it's interesting.
No. It's
and I like her. I like Taylor.
It's not about her. Like her music is just like fucking really good. And like I saw like a meme about it the other day. Like who's taking care, like the trend of like oldest daughters or only daughters, or like the ones taking care of everybody in the family. And then somebody said, but who's taking care of the oldest daughters? And somebody responded, Taylor Swift.
Oh, there you go.
That's the correct answer, right? Like, because there's something just very relatable about her songs. Like the way she can put things into words is like the way they dance in our brains when we're questioning ourselves. So the fact that she says it kind of makes us all feel less crazy for thinking those things. Like, I think that's what it is she's very validating to people who go through a lot. And plus Guilty as Sin is just fucking, what if he's written mine on my upper thigh, only in my mind? Come the fuck on, that is gold. Once slip and fallen back into the hedge maze, oh, what a way to die. Come the fuck on. Spicy Taylor. You gotta listen to some Spicy Taylor is what you've got to do. You're missing out on Spicy Taylor. Troy's mad because I'm quoting Taylor Swift lyrics.
No, I feel dirty like thinking about Spicy Taylor, because I know like when I grew up, Taylor was a child, but
she is a 35-year-old woman now.
She's a 35-year-old woman. I like I said, I've said this before. Like I'm kind of like I don't really think about Taylor Swift that much. I like a few of her songs. I'm kind of a 40-year-old dude. I'm just kind of like, she seems like a nice girl. That's fine.
The thing with her is there are people who like all of her music, but there's music all people could like, right? Like you might not necessarily like everything, but I guarantee I could find a 10-song playlist of Taylor Swift that I could pick 10 songs for any person. They won't be the same 10 songs, but I could find at least 10 Taylor Swift songs that everybody could like.
All right.
And I'm on this mission because I'm going to do it for my dad because he's like, I don't understand what the hype is with her. I tried to listen to one of her songs. I was like, you can't just randomly pick a Taylor Swift song. I will make my dad a playlist. I already know the first song on the list is The Great War. My dad would love that song.
Okay. Well, speaking of Pennsylvania, let's talk a little bit of polls here. So the big one yesterday, it's been an incredible couple of weeks.
I know.
The big one yesterday was this Iowa poll. So I'm going to let you kind of talk about this a little bit, but essentially what happened was the Des Moines Register came out with their latest poll from their pollster, J.N. Selzer, who's basically this woman in her
polling queen. Yeah.
She's basically, she is the gold standard. She's been accurate. Mm-hmm. She's always right. She's always fucking right. Like scary right. She came out and her latest Iowa poll has Kamala up 47-44, up 3. Now you may be like, all right, well, it's Iowa, it's within the margin of error, whatever. But Trump won Iowa twice, and he was up 18 points over Biden when Biden was running in this Des Moines Register poll. The other polls, the other sort of big Iowa polls, still has Trump up by 8. So for Selzer, who is always right, to come in and say that somehow the Democratic candidate has gone from minus 18 with Biden to now plus 3. The gap that has been closed, if she's right, and she's always right, the gap that has been closed in Iowa is fucking astounding. And she may still lose that state because, again, that's still in the margin of error. But that is incredible. That is for insider political people. That is absolutely incredible that Kamala would be leading in Iowa right now.
That's a 15-point swing, right? And on election night, right, when Ryan's here, because he and I, like, I was in the comedy show. So when I say he and I were unpacking, I mean, he was sending me long messages that I was checking every now and again. But like, what's a significant thing about this is if we're talking about Iowa potentially swinging to Democrats 2 days out, he's gone. He's done, right? Like she doesn't have to win Iowa. It's the fact that we're talking. It's the fact that we're talking about Iowa. Because if we're talking about Iowa, then Pennsylvania, Iowa is more conservative than Pennsylvania by a fucking mile. And if Iowa is within winning, I don't see how anybody can convince me Pennsylvania is close.
Or Georgia, or Arizona, or Nevada.
The Pennsatucky corner of Pennsylvania is not going to out conservative the state of Iowa. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even and what else is kind of showing, and this is getting lost a little bit, but she's not within the margin of error in other states of significance, but the margins are way tighter in a lot of states like Ohio, Kansas, Texas, Florida, and Alaska are all within would be in the leaning category. So these are traditionally, and Ohio, traditionally solid red states have margins that are leaning, which means they're 5 points difference, right? Or just 5 or just about 5, right? So toss up is margin of error, lean is 5, between 5 and 10, right? And solid is likely is I think between 7 and I can't remember what the numbers is, but the point is that Texas is pink, not red, right? This is what I'm trying to get through. If these are the conversations we're having, then I don't understand how anybody thinks this race will be close. I understand
Texas
that the
Trump's
what I'm saying is, so pink I guess is under 10 and likely
but I'm saying you're right. He's under 10 in Texas.
That's what I'm saying, right? And Texas has voted for Republicans in every election since 2000. Right, for 25 years, essentially, Texas has been a solid red state, and we've been talking about Texas's margins tightening. But when we said tightening, we've from plus 25 Republican to plus 20 Republican to plus 15 Republican. Right, it's still been solidly Republican. But there's a realistic scenario where, like, I don't think Texas will flip, but if it flipped, I wouldn't be shocked. Does that make sense? Like, I'd be shocked, but not shocked. Does that make any
Well,
sense?
Texas doesn't even have to flip. So he's up 8. The
That's what I'm
margin of error
saying.
is 4. If it's tied in Texas and he wins Texas, but it's tied, what that means for other states, again, for Georgia and North Carolina and Pennsylvania and Nevada and Arizona. Like if Texas is tied, like that's a huge fight. Like 'cause basically right now Iowa is tied. What
Yeah.
this poll is saying from this woman, her firm is always right, is that Iowa is tied when other
Iowa
firms are
is
saying
tied.
that Trump is up in Iowa. So it's crazy. It's absolutely
Mhm.
crazy. If
Yep.
she's managed to move the numbers that far, then and they're picking
Mhm.
up on something in Iowa that other polling firms aren't picking up on.
Oh, I know what
It's
they picked up on.
probably also there in Georgia and there
Yeah.
in Arizona and Nevada and
Yep.
Pennsylvania. I mean, this is crazy. You know,
And
we're
what it
talking
is,
about,
it's women.
yeah, it's women.
It's women.
It's
Because, like, Ryan
women,
ran through the crosstabs with me really briefly, and she's winning women over the age of 65.
which has never happened for a Democrat.
Well, it's not never happened, but, like, Donald Trump was winning that. He won that in 16 and 20, right? Like, white women over 65, he was
Yeah.
winning handedly, right?
Yeah.
But what is happening is not only is, like, female turnout is up, and that alone is usually a telling sign, but exit polls are leaning to her heavily among this group. And
Yep.
the 65 plus women seemingly might not make sense to you, but a 65, like women over the age of 65, lived in a pre-Roe world and lived in a no-fault divorce or like a divorce illegal world and lived in a couldn't have their own credit card world. They remember
Yep. They
that.
were there.
And they have lived most of their adult life like without the oppression they witnessed their own mothers live under. And some of them in the middle of their own marriages had a lifeline extended to them. And now they have daughters or granddaughters. And like we were saying in the pre-show, if they have granddaughters facing pregnancy issues right now, remembering what it was like to watch their mothers or their older sisters or even themselves go through in a pre-Roe world, the point I made to Troy, grandparents love their grandkids more than their actual kids. We all know this to be true. So grandmas are going to the polls for their grandkids because we also know that this young generation is very politically active. We also know this young generation was very much raised by their grandparents because, like, working household, right? Like, so, like, they're very close with their grandparents. So if those Gen Z kids are sitting down with their grandparents and explaining this and they're winning over white grandmas, Donald Trump is cooked. If he lost white grandmas, he's cooked.
You're absolutely right. And it's also the Trump has always won white women. I mean, it's that whole like 45-55 thing.
Like embarrassingly won white women. Like, as a white woman, I'm telling you, I was quite ashamed.
I think he's losing white women. I think he's losing all women, and he's losing these plus 65s, and for absolutely the reasons that you're saying. And I think it's a phenomenon of, it's that same phenomenon of like, what was it when they people were voting for Obama, but they didn't want to tell their friends or whatever, like these women are going in, these women are telling everybody that they're voting for Trump. They may even be telling pollsters they're voting for Trump, but when they get in that voting booth, they're voting for Kamala because they cannot.
And it's like, yeah, and there's that Kamala Harris ad, and there's something to it because the right wing has been freaking out about it. Like, didn't Jesse Waters say, like, if my wife doesn't vote the way I vote, that's tantamount to having an affair? Like it was that moment. I remember
it was Charlie Kirk said that too. Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. Like, I remember in that moment, I texted one of my friends and I was like, this is why I'm glad I never got married, because I'd be living in a world right now where I'd have to sit and like look across at my husband and like, do you think of me as your do you think that like
I
us
guarantee
becoming
you would not marry a man where that would be a question?
I dated a man where that would have been the question, and I very much am not with him because I realized that about him like quickly.
Well, I guarantee you my wife does not think that about
no, I know, because you're a good dude. But like, no, like one of my boyfriend, like one of the first guys I dated in college. So I was like 19, so I was stupid. We're all stupid at 19. But he was one of those like religious cuckoo birds, right? Who there were like a couple things he said to me that like were always like slight red flags. But the one that like really did me in was like after 9/11, when he turns to me and he said, "Aren't you glad Al Gore is not president now?" And I was like, actually, no, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't be watching this if he were, but that's fine. But he also told me I wasn't a real Christian because I was like, little things like this, like, you're not a real Christian, you're Catholic. Catholics don't read the Bible. I was like, I'm pretty sure we wrote it. Like Peter and all.
They made the Bible, dude.
Like, I'm pretty sure King, like, you have a King James version only because he needed his own because the original one was the Catholic one. It was ours. You changed ours, like, and cut shit out of it.
Evangelicals are so dumb.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I know those men exist, and I was so glad in that moment. I was like, that's how they like. I'm not your fucking property. I'm a fucking person. Why can't I be a person with my own mind and my own feeling? It's
the other thing that this is revealing is just so Seltzer's poll has them tied. There are other like basically every other Iowa poll has Trump up like big. And Nate Silver even admitted this. Okay, so Nate Silver comes out and goes, when this Seltzer poll dropped, they asked Nate Silver for his opinion. And Nate Silver says, it is incredibly gutsy to release this poll. He's talking about the Seltzer poll. I wouldn't put Harris ahead in our forecast because there was another Iowa poll out today that was good for Trump. But I wouldn't want to play poker against Ann Seltzer, Nate Silver says. So Nate Silver essentially admitting to this phenomenon that we know that's been going on, that pollsters are watering down their own polls because they're afraid of getting it wrong. So if you have other polls in Iowa that have Trump up and you have one with Kamala up, you might fudge it a little bit so that it's not, it's not as good because you don't want to be the one that's wrong. We've had polling disasters in 2020 and 2022, and I'm telling you, the polls are wrong again this time. This is not nearly as close as people are saying, and this Seltzer model is breaking through, and people are realizing that like the other models are wrong. This is because they're not picking up on what you're talking about. They're not picking up on this massive flux of new voters and women voters, and it's
well, it's the realignment I've been talking about forever. Like the polls are not, or like her poll is catching the realignment, but the rest of them are not. And if you read, like, there was an article in the New York Times by Nate Cohn a couple weeks ago. Now, I don't know, time is flat for me right now. It's all kind of a blur. But he was basically talking about like the reason all the polls look the same and aren't moving is because the way they're modeling them to like overcorrect for all the mistakes in the last few cycles is to track them as if they're copying 2020 models. So why do they all look like 2020? Because they're designed to mirror 2020 because they think that's going to give them the most accurate look. But that's not taking into consideration the election trends that we saw in the 22 midterms, what we've seen in special elections, or taking in the post-Dobbs effect, right? They're like, none of the polls account for that, but I think hers is accounting for that. And to another point, and I can't remember if it was you I was talking to about with this or Ryan at this point, but like a lot of to the point about the endorsement for the LA Times, a lot of these pollsters as well might be afraid that if their polls put her ahead and he ends up winning, because again, the polls have been fucking wonky and weird, that they would face retribution for not making it look like him. And we've also known that there's a lot of like right-wing groups padding, like there's bullshit right-leaning polls up there to pad the aggregates in his favor. And as I've said, I'm fairly confident that Nate Silver and Peter Thiel are working together to short the betting market so they can clean up on all the people betting Trump will win. And they're voting it for Kamala. So they're making the polls look like it'll go for him. And now all of a sudden at the very, very end, when a lot of people have placed their bets, they're like, oh, you know what? It might go for Kamala after all. See, this is why you should place your bets late. Wink, wink. We weren't doing this on purpose at all. And I think it's Nate Cohn and Ann Seltzer that are going to be like the heroes of this election cycle, because both of them had the nerve to be like, you know what? Fuck this shit. I'm telling you what I found. This is what I found. Something's happening here.
It was... fuck, I'm gonna forget his name now, but it was they've been doing this for a while. In 2022, it was fuck, what's his name? Anyway, there was a pollster that came out in 2022 about the red wall or the red wave.
The red wave,
and
yep, that never came.
There was like everybody was like, every single pollster in 2022 was like, the red wave is coming. This is going to be a bloodbath for Democrats. Blah 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 blah. There was one pollster that came out and was like, no, like, what are you guys talking about? And he was right. And this Seltzer thing is right. Like, you can't just look at like a single snapshot poll. You have to look at trends, and all of the trends are showing us that things have changed since Dobbs. Things have changed. It's a different electorate. People are concerned about different things. It's not the same thing as 2020 or even 2022. But you've got to look at trends. You've got to look at like abortion winning in Kansas and Ohio. There's a new electorate coming through, and it's people are it's not Biden versus Trump. You can't even use really the models when it was Biden versus Trump. Now you have the excitement factor for Kamala, and it's just you cannot. This is basically it's a whole new ballgame. It's a whole new ballgame. And I'm telling you, the pollsters are dropping the ball again.
Well, and even with them doing what they're doing with the polls, if you dig into it enough, which you're only going to do if you're a numbers nerd, like the few of us who are numbers nerds, to your point, it's always about trajectory. She might not have picked up leads in a lot of places, but margins have tightened in every state, every single state, right? Even blue states, some of the margins are tightening because he is pushing more people to go vote, right? But like Iowa is closer than it's ever been. Texas is closer than it's ever been. Georgia is officially an in-place state in every elect. The trend has been she is doing better and he is either maintaining or losing. And he had a low ceiling to begin with. He's never broken 50%. She has a net positive favorability. So what they're trying to tell us right now is in the same poll that has him as a net negative unfavorable, like in the like 5-6 net like unfavorable, and she is a net favorable 2+3, right? You're telling me that the same country that has a negative view of him and a positive view of her is leaning toward voting for him over her.
Right.
Like this is what the polls are trying to convince me of right now, and I'm like, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying what you're saying.
Simon Rosenberg was the guy I was thinking of
that was his name. I was trying to think of it too. And I was like, I feel like it's Simon, but that's my cousin. And I was thinking I was wrong. But
Simon Rosenberg was really one of the only major pollsters in 2022 that said that the idea
had the nerve to come out and be like, yep.
And the other thing is like it's Arizona too, the Gallego thing. So Gallego's up like 9-10 on Carrie Lake because of this abortion vote and because people, because of this new electorate that we're talking about. Now you're trying to convince me that like you're trying to say that like Gallego's up 10, but Trump's also leading. So people are going to vote for Gallego over the abortion issue, and then they're going to turn around and vote for Donald Trump.
Right. And this is like crazy. And the same thing in North Carolina, right? Like they are living in a world of unanticipated split ticket voting. Like I'll say Arizona and North Carolina share that they do have more split ticket voters than normal state, like other, I don't want to say normal states, but like,
at this point, at this level, I don't know.
But like it would be an obscene amount of split ticket voting, especially in North Carolina, where like sign is up, I think 20 points. So you're going to tell me that there's 20% of voters in North Carolina that would vote for a Democratic governor and a Republican president who was endorsing the Republican governor they're not voting for. Like, and the same thing with Carrie Lake. Like Carrie Lake is on the Trump train, right? He loved her, he hates her now, but whatever, right? Like you're telling me in the same state that is rejecting MAGA Carrie Lake would embrace literal MAGA Donald Trump. The math ain't mathing.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. In normal times, like ticket splitting is or ballot splitting is normal in normal times, but this isn't
normal times. But also like ticket splitting it's never 20% of the electorate. Like it's never 20% of Republican voters don't split their ticket, no matter where you are. It's just insane to me that they want us to believe these things. And I'm confident the betting markets are being manipulated to try to rip Trump voters off one last time. Because if he loses, which we think he will, that means the grift is over. He's too old to pretend he can run again in 4 years, right? So this is it. This is their last chance to grift for him. So I think they're going to do it on the betting market. Go on, bet on him winning. We're telling you he's winning. Put all your money on Donald Trump, and we're going to bleed you dry one last time. That's what I think's happening.
All right, so we're way over time. We should wrap it up here. We'll continue the conversation on
election night.
On election night.
Oh God, it's almost over. I'm so excited. I need it to be over so bad.
I know we're almost there. So tune in to 6 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday, election day. We're going to be having our live episode. We're going to be live streaming on YouTube. So go to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/justbuylesscoffee. You can watch the live stream on YouTube, or if you're on TikTok, go to one of our pages, either at Cannon's Fodder or at Keep Troy Blue on TikTok, and we will
Actually,
be
you know what
live
might be a good idea
together.
is because you have a bigger following on Instagram. You stream live on Instagram, and I'll stream live on TikTok.
Maybe, but Instagram's been suppressing me, so I don't know. I'm kind of.
Oh, have they really? Of course they have.
I'm
Because
not too keen on Instagram right now.
that's fair. That's fair. That's
And
fair.
my Instagram lives never do well. So go to TikTok, and you can watch the stream there. We will be answering questions on both platforms. So if you have questions and comments and stuff, make sure you're putting them in the chat. We will respond to them. Going to try and get some other creators to come on with us as well. So yeah, check that out. Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. I am in Spain. It will be midnight for me. I'll be, but I was going to be up late anyway. But anyway, we will be have the champagne ready. I don't know, Kathy. Like I said in the pre-show, if maybe last week or so, I would have been like, fuck, I'm just going to go to bed because there's no way they're going to call this thing, within a week or whatever. But with this Iowa thing and some of these late breaking poll numbers, I don't know. We may have
If she wins North Carolina, it's over. We can all go to bed early.
Yeah. We may know sooner than we thought, which would be a good sign, which would be a very good sign.
Fingers crossed, all the positive thoughts into the universe. Legally Blondola. Keep calm and carry on.
Keep calm and carry on.
No, keep Kamala and carry on.
Keep Kamala and carry on. Love that
carry
shit. All right, Kathy.
Keep Kamala and carry on. Like, it was delightful. Keep Kamala and
Thanks,
carry
Kathy, for a good conversation. Check us out, everybody, on Tuesday, and we will see everybody next time. You've been listening to Just Buy Less Coffee, answering the deeper questions of American politics, featuring Troy Matthews at Keep Troy Blue and Cathy Cannon at Cannon's Fodder. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and X. All opinions are our own.